Welcome aboard. On this week's episode, we discuss our time so far with Mass Effect Legendary Edition. We get into the nitty-gritty of the emotion within games. And PlayStation goes cosmic red. This is Triple XP.
Triple XP.
Welcome all to episode 30. I'm Shane and this is Mike.
All right, how's it going?
And this week we are joined by our blog writing extraordinaire, Ryan.
You're right. I'm not sure I can claim that title, seeing as I've written like 2 blogs in about
not
2
anymore.
Probably more.
Let's not dabble on that, shall we?
You're the best we've got, Ryan. You're the best we've got, man.
That's fine. Yeah, you wheel me out for reasons. It's fine. I'm here.
Yeah, you're all we've got, so therefore the best we've got. But anyway, let's get straight into it. What have we been playing this week, boys? Ryan, do you want to start us off?
What have I been playing? I mean, obviously I've been listening to this every week, and Mike, you need to be giving Nintendo they should be giving you a cut because I've now bought Fire Emblem, courtesy of you. I've been itching. There's been this scratch I just couldn't quite get to. And then as you started talking about Fire Emblem, I realised it was because I'm missing 3 houses. And
so there it is.
Under the influence of, I'm not sure what it was, but I ended up buying it. And I don't regret it, which is quite nice. And I'm enjoying it thoroughly again from playthrough 3, 4, I think.
So a drunken purchase that wasn't regretted. That's got to be a first, right?
It's not often, is it? There's a lot of times that you wake up where there's a lot of dread, but Fire Emblem is not one of them. So, yeah, no, thank you for that. But yeah, I've been playing through that, and do you know what? I've missed it. I've missed that kind of, XCOM. I've been playing XCOM on PlayStation, and it doesn't have that same charm that Fire Emblem does.
XCOM is a very similar beast, isn't it? With the permadeath and things like that.
Yeah. The only thing that XCOM has over Fire Emblem is that XCOM, I could create you and Shane, and then you two could get blasted to shit. Whereas in Fire Emblem, I can't unfortunately create you guys and then put you in the line of fire.
True.
But it's still, it's heart wrenching. It's heart wrenching when these guys just die, and they just like scream in pain. They kind of say, "I'm sorry, I wasn't strong enough." And you're like, "Oh." I've let you down.
On the note of XCOM, I came very close to purchasing it again the other day on the Switch because it's a very Switch game,
isn't it, at the minute, and I'm just like, I might do it.
I've heard bad things about the port. I've heard very bad things.
Well, luckily, I've not purchased it, and I still have it on PlayStation, and still have not completed it / got very far at all.
Yeah,
but
keep it on PlayStation. I've heard that the Switch is it's not ported very well. It doesn't it just does not play well. It's slow, it's clunky. Obviously you've got all of the cinematic or the small sort of it's into like cinematics where it introduces people or it cuts to the shooting and stuff. It's bad.
I'll just keep waiting for Project Triangle Strategy.
Yes, or
that's the small one. Unless if you want to purchase it for me, then no.
The only disposable income I had was spent on a drunken purchase that I don't regret, which was Fire Emblem. So
100% worth.
100% worth it. And as I said, as we were speaking about it before we start recording, I think my next disposable income is probably going to go to the season pass as well. So, yeah, Nintendo owe you something, 10%, 20p or something like that. They owe you something.
Nintendo, if you're listening, just hook a brother up,
Give him the 0.01% that he deserves. Because that's all they'd ever give you.
And then 10 coins or whatever they're called that you can redeem in store.
Yeah.
To be fair, he'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But and obviously that in itself feels like a handheld sort of part of my life. There's
Before
very specific points. Go on.
before you go on forward on that, can we just touch on? I actually think that Nintendo need to do this. Why is there not a gain coins through a refer a friend system? Like if you purchase a game and you say and you put in that this was referred to me by this person, they gain like a small handful of coins into their account. Why is that not a thing?
Money. They lose money.
We're not going to lose much though, are they? We talk.
There's also
like,
a lot
coins...
of shit Nintendo needs to fucking sort out before
yeah,
this. This
true.
is bottom of the list.
That is true. But like, if they earn like 5 coins, for example, that's nothing, is it? It's like 5p.
Yeah.
But then in the same vein, though, on the other side, is that enough to encourage you to refer someone?
Think of all the shovelware I could get with, the referrals that I do. That's just on this podcast alone. Like
Mike himself, he could have bought Fire Emblem himself by now, just with those.
Buy this game I'm
Just
playing
with
right now
referrals.
and really excited about and won't be playing in like 2 days' time from now.
Exactly. Anyway, Ryan, you can go back. You can continue with what you were saying now.
That's fine. I mean, I was just saying, Fire Emblem feels a very portable part of my life. And there's obviously very specific moments when you have the Switch in your hand, which is when you're in bed and when you're at the toilet. There was one occasion today where I was in London, but I would say that the majority of the time on the Switch is in the former two, the toilet and the bed. So
Yeah.
that feels a certain amount of time in my life. The other two, the rest of the time is spent over 2 games, which is Mass Effect, which I'm sure me and Mike will speak a lot on, and Destiny, which I'm sure me and Shane will talk a lot on. Because Shane is a huge, if you don't know, he's a huge advocate for Destiny. If anything, he's a poster boy. Hashtag sponsored content for Destiny. I like Shane's.
I mean, anybody who's listened to this podcast in the last few weeks will know that is not the case.
I believe it's called negging. You treat it so badly that you just kind of want to go back to it. That's what it is.
My relationship with it is in the worst place it could possibly be.
Even though we've just gone into full divorce, yeah.
I don't. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, who got the kids?
Yeah, Destiny, and it can take them. Can fucking have them. I don't want anything to do with it. So, which do you want to cover first, Mass Effect or Destiny?
Let's go through a shit sandwich, shall we? So we've done a Fire Emblem, which was quite positive. Let's do Destiny, Shane. Let's get it out of the way.
Here we go. This is going to be a fun conversation for you, Mike.
Buckle up, listeners.
It's about to get real negative.
You guys...
I'm just going to pour some more wine for this one.
You need more than wine, I think. Something a bit stronger than that. For those of you who don't know, the season of the Splice has just started. So, new season, new weapons, new content, new story. It's not that bad.
New sweaties.
More numbers? Higher numbers?
There's no higher numbers in terms of level, so the grind itself is not there in terms of higher level.
But there is new bullshit builds.
I can't deny that. There's definitely some bullshit in play. But it's Season of Tron. You know, you're going into sort of the dataverse, you know. It's the neon, it's the cyber, it's this is you, Shane. This is basically Tron.
Yeah,
without the light cycles.
And the thing is, Tron's great. I love anything neon. I think it's awesome. But Destiny already gives me depression. I don't need that depression in neon lights. Simple as that. And there is nothing right now about Destiny, in my opinion, that is enjoyable in any way, shape, or form. It is just full of sweaty cunts. It is annoying. I absolutely hate PvP. I absolutely hate PvE. The entire game is just making me so angry right now. And even the neon lights of Tron can't bring me back.
I did kind of go into this discussion hoping to just end the podcast at 10 minutes to see if you would just stop. Just see if I can get you to sort of rage quit it.
I don't want to
No,
tell
I
you
mean,
about it anymore.
I'm not gonna rage quit it, but it's just this season, as well as the Tron element, there's an even higher focus on stasis because they didn't want to focus on that bullshit class anymore. Let's just make it more of a focus by bringing in stasis-based weapons. Literally, actually makes me want to vomit. So they've now we've got stasis, which in itself is bullshit, and it's still unbalanced. It's
Just for
still ridiculous.
the people like me that don't give a shit. What is stasis?
So
What is it?
essentially, the original Destiny had three classes that you could be, three powers that your character could use. So you've got the three classes: Warlock, Hunters, and Titans, and then they could all utilize three sets of different powers, and they are Void, which is like a purpley, time warping style of
it's
thing.
like shadowy kind of.
Yeah. Then you've
got purple power.
Yeah, basically. Then you've got fire. You've got fire and lightning. Essentially, they're the original three. They've now brought in stasis, which is essentially ice. It's just ice. They should just call it ice. It's meant to be like time slowing, but it's just ice. It gives you the ability to freeze people, slow people down, create big ice walls. The whole of this part of Destiny is basically based around a giant planet full of snow, which I couldn't hate more. And the storyline is all based around using the stasis, and the stasis has been brought in because it's a dark power. So it's specifically using the darkness, whereas everything previously in Destiny has all been about using the light to fight the dark. So this is the first time we're using the other side and trying to use its own power against it, which all seems cool. It seems like a great idea. Like, oh, they're really expanding on the story. They're taking it to where we've been wanting it to go for ages. Except stasis itself is bullshit, and I couldn't hate it more. So far, it's so broken.
I mean, it sounds overpowered.
It's not only is it overpowered, but it's not balanced at all. And I'm not picking out any particular class because all three classes have bullshit abilities with it. It's not balanced at all, and if anything, by trying to balance it, they've unbalanced it more, which is just two of the classes now just absolutely run rampant, and one of the classes, Ryan's class, is actually just being nerfed to high heaven for no real reason, while the other two classes are left to run rampant. So it's not balanced in any way, shape, or form. And the way that they've done it is that stasis, you can put these like fragments and aspects into it to make it more powerful, and it gives you boosts to like your strength or your grenade cooldown or stuff like that. Fantastic. The problem is that they haven't done that to the original three elements. So the original three powers are just static powers that now have no real ability to stand up to stasis, because the minute you swap out to one of them, you will drop down in your strength or your agility or whatever it is that you've got stacked up in your stasis. So they almost become irrelevant.
Redundant.
They're just redundant classes. So all you get now is people running around with stasis, freezing the fuck out of everyone consistently with these dirty, sweaty builds where they'll like slide across about 9 miles of the map as a Titan with a shotgun, sliding on ice, insta-freezing, and then killing you and then another player will kill you from the other side of the map with a hand cannon. Because at the moment, hand cannons are the meta, and they're fucking horrible, and they're overpowered, and they need to get in the bin.
Just remind me, Shane. So you don't like Destiny at the moment, is that right?
Mate?
Honestly,
you can sit down.
Mate, I am sitting down. The thing is, I've been playing Destiny since it came out in 2013, 2014, so 7-8 years.
Yeah. Many moons ago, wasn't it?
And Destiny, I think all of us have always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with Destiny. There's always been points where it's been frustrating because either it's not had enough content or it's just taken the piss with some of the decisions that Bungie have made have been frustrating. There's lots of things that have made it frustrating over the years. This is the first time in that 8 years that I can honestly say I absolutely hate Destiny. all of the decisions that Bungie are currently making are horrible decisions. They've just brought in the transmog system, so an ability to change your armor to look how you want it to look. It's a horrible system they've brought in. The way they've changed the seasons is great, but everything they're doing around it just feels boring and stale. Every time they bring in a new piece of, like, a new activity, it just feels boring and stale. They're not doing enough right now, and it's just really frustrating me. And the decisions that are being made are just horrific. And the PvP is at a point where basically it's almost, so there's a mode in it called Trials of Osiris, which is the hardcore mode. That is where the best of the best players go once a week to test themselves against each other.
So, do you play there?
I've always enjoyed going into Trials of Osiris, but it's become unplayable for anyone outside of the sweatiest of the sweaties. But the problem we're also getting is that those players are obviously into the main PvP mode as well. And the problem we're getting with PvP now is it is such a place where the really, really, really low level casual players will play a little bit, but because there's so many super sweaty players in there, get really frustrated and stop playing it. So now the pool of players in PvP is a much higher quality of player across the board. From the lowest level PvP player to the highest level PvP player, it's just a much higher level of quality players, because all of those casual players are like, I'm not playing anymore because it's bullshit. But now what we're seeing.
I think you get that with a lot of games that have been out for a long time. Like I play,
you do.
dip in and out of Siege, and like, I used to be good at Siege, and now I'm terrible
very
at Siege.
Similar.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's been out for years, and people have just, hardcore played only that game.
Exactly that, and it's the same concept has happened on that, as it's happened in lots of games. So now what we're seeing is the good players, they can't stand up to the sweaty bullshit players, so they're starting to drop out. So now your PvP is just filled with sweaty bullshit players, and it's just not fun anymore. It's just, and like you say, Siege is in a very similar position where it's just full of extremely good players. That means that people like us that just want to dip in and dip out and have fun just can't. You just can't have fun. So that's why at the moment Destiny makes me super angry, and that's why I'm not currently playing. I've actually deleted it from my console because all the time it's installed.
I noticed it's not on your list of what you've been playing.
No, I've deleted it.
Do you care to expand on why you've not been playing it this week? Oh wait.
Well, all the time it's installed, I might play it. I know I'll be tempted to go into it if it's installed, so I've uninstalled it.
Just to you might have seen me put this on there as a list that I was going to come in here and kind of completely shit over your views on Destiny. I get it, and I actually do kind of agree. I'm enjoying Season of the Splicer, but I'm not invested anywhere near as much as I used to be. As in, like, I know now that it is unobtainable to play a lot of these things at the higher level. I know that the amount of time I have to put into this game to actually get the most out of it is like a phenomenal amount. Like, all of my spare time that I should be spending, even the time I'm spending on the toilet and in bed playing Fire Emblem, they should be on Destiny to just be anywhere close to doing well on that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not obtainable. It's not realistic. So I get it. I mean, until I can comfortably get away of playing Destiny while I'm on the toilet, I don't think I'm ever going to make it in that game. So I'm enjoying it for what it is. I'm enjoying it for the sort of the new weapons, there's some new activities, there's some new bits and pieces, there's some new lore. Jump in, a couple of hours a week, I think. It's not going to be I'm not going to take it seriously anymore. That's the way I'm looking at this now. I don't want this to take a drain. I don't want this to be the reason I turn bald or get fatter. I don't want this to be any of these reasons. If anything, I want the stress to make me thinner, but I don't think that's happened. It hasn't happened over the last couple of seasons. Therefore, in this case, I am just going to go in, play it for a bit, and then go. I'm enjoying it. You should try it, Shane.
No, I'm not reinstalling it.
Just have fun. Just have fun.
Just have fun.
No, and the thing is, because of how you guys have played games with me for long enough now. You guys have both know what my level of quality in video games is low. I'm happy to admit that. I'm not a good gamer. I never have been. There are some games that I excel in, JRPGs, for example. I know I can do extremely well in them, but you put me in an FPS, and I will most often be one at the bottom of the scoreboard. I know that. I've never claimed to be anything other than that. I don't ever ask to be carried. I don't ever ask someone to do it for me. I just go in and have fun. And so I've obviously been dabbling in Battlefield 5 since it's gone onto PlayStation Plus, and I can do that in Battlefield 5 and be happy and come bottom of the scoreboard and not have an issue. I can't do that with Destiny. It makes me too angry. The bullshittery makes me too frustrated. And if I'm gonna dip in and out of games, I need either two things to come out of it. I either need to feel like I'm making some level of progress, or I need to be having fun. And right now, Destiny is not giving me either of those.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Just in general, shooting games, like multiplayer, if you're not having fun, you need to be like progressing. Like COD does a good job of telling you that you're progressing, even if you're fucking getting wasted every game.
I think it's the same reason why we don't really play Siege anymore. Because again, you're either going in and just getting your ass handed to you every 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not having fun, but you're also not making any progress on anything. So there's just nothing. There's nothing to aim for, and at the same time, you're just getting your ass handed to you every 5 seconds.
That's why Battlefield is the perfect shooter, because it does all of that.
Battlefield is the perfect shooter.
It really
because
is.
it's 64 v 64 set in World War II. If I'm it's fucking chaos. I don't care if I die in that game, because a lot of the time I don't even know where the bullets are coming from. It's just fucking chaos. You can run around a corner and just see a tank and be like, I've screwed up. There's no, with Battlefield, it doesn't matter how good you are, you can still fuck up massively in that. Like, we play with obviously Aaron all the time, and he still dies a lot, because that is the nature of Battlefield.
Yeah.
You're just wrong place, wrong time, you're fucked. Whereas it feels like with Destiny, when you die in Destiny, a lot of it is your fault for the way that you've played. You've not played well enough. You've not read the situation well enough. You can't necessarily read the situations in Battlefield, because it's just a fucking clusterfuck. Anyway, Ryan,
the good thing is, I guess I fully agree. I mean, the good thing on the Battlefield stuff is that it's mindless to a certain degree. And I'm actually looking forward to, it's not part of the news today, but I'm looking forward to the fact that next month we will start seeing more on Battlefield, because there are announcements coming.
That's true.
They've been talking about Battlefield 6, haven't they?
Lots of hints and rumours and shit, and I just really hope it's 3 and 4, more of that, please, because that was fucking the best game.
I think that's the hint, isn't it? That it's going back to the modern warfare style of Battlefield 4.
It's going to be Battlefield 6. So it's going to be called Battlefield 4 plus 2. This could be one of the first ones where they add a plus or a sum or a maths into the title. Battlefield 4 plus 2.
That's the twist this year, guys.
So
cool,
I mean, after that salty outburst by me, should we move on to Mass Effect?
Let's move on to Mass Effect, because I think, as I said, it was very much a shit sandwich. Fire Emblem, amazing game.
I didn't even know if you enjoyed it or anything. It was just
love Fire Emblem.
10 solid minutes of Shane ranting about Destiny.
Very much a Shane monologue at this point.
As long as you had fun, Ryan.
It's the trigger, it's just to get Shane talking more than anything else. TLDR, I enjoy Destiny. I'll keep playing it. I'm not going to rage and uninstall it like some.
Quiz.
I'm not. I know. I'm not. I'm also not going to get flawless. Because a lot of my time now is going to be taken up with Mass Effect, which, and I think we touched upon it on Twitter. I put that game in. I was like, you know what? I'm looking forward to this. And then that music kicked in, and that was it. I was back. I was back to 2007. I was like, oh my god, it's music I haven't heard since. And this is before we even start talking about the game itself. The whole thing, it just brought me back. And I mean, I've not played them much. I've played 5-6 hours. I've just got the Normandy. I'm just about to sort of head out into the wide world. and it's amazing just how much of it I remember and how much of it feels natural. The first game itself feels clunky as hell.
Yeah,
Um,
it's still the first game, and it's a very
yeah,
old game now. It's very
yeah,
clear that it's like clunky, but they did do a good job of polishing it to a
mm,
standard where it's playable now. Like, not that it wasn't playable before, but it was very dated back then. Like, if you played it
they've
now,
done,
it's you can see, you know,
yeah,
you can see it. Like,
they've dragged it into sort of the 2010s as opposed to the 2020s. Really, is what they've
yeah,
done.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it doesn't look the greatest, but you know the story that's coming. I mean, and for anyone that is listening that has never played it and this is their first go into it, like please, like I implore you, stick at it
mm,
because like Mass Effect 1 has such a good story, but it builds into something that's so much greater from 2 and 3. And we've spoken about this, Mike. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for 2.
yeah, yeah. I'm so excited for 2 and 3 as well. Like 3 was great. I wasn't on board with this like change the whole ending because I didn't like it. I was just like, that's the ending. That's fine. That's their creative choice. Whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I had that view when I originally played it.
yeah, I was
Um,
like, 3 was sick. I love 3. Like it was great.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
I
2 is
mean, how
where it
much have
really
you
all like comes together, and it's yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
two is
how
by
much have
far the
you played
best.
this then, like
What was that? Sorry.
how much of this have you played?
So I'm roughly 10, 15 hours in. I've kind of got most of the crew together, if not all of the crew actually now. And when you start getting some of the crew members, and you're like, these are the fucking boys, you know, let's jump in the Mako and let's go. Like
Yeah.
when you get Garrus and then Tally as
Who
well.
doesn't love Garrus?
Fucking
Garrus,
Garrus, so what an absolute lad. Um,
absolute.
yeah, and you get like Tally and stuff, and I'm like, these are like old friends, you know what I mean? It really hit that nostalgia beat, definitely.
It's like what's that? The Sean Pegg film, End of the World, is it? The End of the World, where they all go back to the pub. All
Yeah,
those
yeah,
old friends are
yeah.
coming back to
At
do this
World's End, yeah,
at World End. That's it. Yeah, it's that sort of
Molly,
sort of reunion, and just kind of just go
Molly.
through it. This is it. This is life.
yeah.
How is the is it Mako? Mako? Mako?
It's not too bad. It's still clunky. Like the whole game's still clunky, but I
Because they
feel like they've definitely polished it up.
yeah.
And it's been so long since I played Mass Effect, the first one. Um, but I kind of looking at it through rose tinted glasses now, and it's like it was always this good. Like they've obviously polished some things up, but it's been so long that I've forgotten a lot of it, and I've forgotten a lot of like the story beats and stuff like that. So it's still it's fresh enough for me to be like, this is a brand new game that I'm playing almost. So um,
So I was
the
discussing.
Mako feels pretty good.
So I was discussing this with Ryan just before we started recording. That like, so I've got serious FOMO at the moment because I haven't got this game and I really want it. But I honestly cannot remember one. All I can remember is that driving element. I cannot remember any of the story beats to one. I can't remember. I cannot remember like the at all any part of one. All I can remember is that driving bit. But what I do remember from 2 is this was, and this is why I've got one of the. I think this is why Mass Effect has such a fond spot in my mind. Is one of the first games I remember where you can be like where you've got that decision making element to it of being like good or bad. And I remember that
Yeah,
I was just being an absolute dick in it.
yeah. I mean, I always kind of struck a weird sort of middle ground where I'd be like a dick to one person and then
Yeah,
an absolute hero to another because it's just like Mass Effect does a really good job of making you care about its NPCs and characters and stuff.
yeah. I always found that like I was always really good to my crew, but anybody in the game, no matter what position they held, no matter who they were, like NPC wise, if they had tried to screw over me or my crew, I would automatically go to like full murder mode.
Yeah.
Be like, no, you tried to screw us over, you're going down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, so it's interesting when you say this as well, because you think of this in relation to when you first played it. It was, and I've just been, while you've been speaking, I've been doing some maths, very, very basic maths. But when Mass Effect 1 came out, I was 16. I'm turning 30 next month. Fable is the other one that I hold in high standard in terms of that kind of that morality system. And that was 2004. So that would have been, 3 years prior. So I would have been 13, 14 at the time. Mass Effect, you're right. It gave you that ability to be almost mature and to start thinking about your consequences, but also the complete reverse at the same time, where you go, fuck consequence. Like, honestly, I could do whatever I like. I could be a complete dick, and let's see what this consequence actually has. And I actually find that when it comes to playing this game, because I remember it so fondly, I question the wisdom of my 16-year-old self when I was playing it.
As you naturally probably should.
As you should, like, 16-year-old Ryan was such a dick. Like, honestly, like, what?
So wise at 16.
That was borderline genocide, Ryan. Come on, like.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Unlike a lot of other games that have like a choice system, Mass Effect for me, and this is purely on my memory, had it was one of the first games that I remember, maybe still one of the only games with a choice system that I remember that has like some real impactful things that matter and happen because of your, for example, as you just said, there's an element of a genocide that is solely down to your decision as to whether that happens or not. And the decisions that you make. And a lot of other games have a morality system, that dictates whether you're good or evil, and you might get some different abilities or how NPCs deal with you. But there's very few games that touch on a point where you kill an entire race simply because of your choices.
What's great about Mass Effect is sorry, Ryan, to cut you off, but I need to speak about this. What's great about Mass Effect is that your choices in the first one, although you don't think the story is as good in the first one as it is in the second one, but all of those choices that you make in the first one matter in the second one. And I think that's why the second one is so great, because you're like, oh shit, I did do that, and like now I'm fucking paying for it because this character's like, hates me or loves me or whatever, like your choices really do matter. And that was the first game that I remember of, like, 18-year-old self at the time was like, holy shit, these two games are like connecting together, and like I've never seen that before in a game where.
Have we seen it since?
No.
Not that I can remember. I don't think there has been another game that's done that, has there? Because all three games link. Like every decision matters across all three games, and I don't think we've seen another game do anything like that yet.
No. And this is what I was going to say, was that we've now been given the ability to look at everything retrospectively, because we were making decisions in 2007 for Mass Effect 1 in isolation of Mass Effect 1. In Mass Effect 2, you're making these decisions maybe based off of what you've done in Mass Effect 1, but it's still in isolation because you don't know what's to come in the future. In Mass Effect 3, you know that you are the accumulation of everything that's happened in 1 and 2, and you are where you are. But that's over like a 5-6 year period. But now we have the ability to look back at it and go, holy shit, there are things that you do in Mass Effect 1 that impact 3 and skip 2. I was watching videos on this where there are things that you can do in the first game that are completely ignored in the second, and then come back in the third, which is incredible.
Yeah. The
mad.
scope of that is insane. Like,
and
it's so cool.
Obviously, when they built this, there wasn't I can't imagine the plan in Mass Effect 1 was that they were, that they were looking at kind of, okay, well, number 3, we're going to do this, or this will have that impact. But it's that Fable had this very clear cut. I'm going to kill this person. I'm going to save this person. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be bad. Obviously, whatever. Not relative to the actions I just said. Whereas in Mass Effect, your decisions, they're grey. There are the Paragon, there are the Renegade, but then there are decisions that in between could impact things that you don't even consider further down the line.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of it. I think we now have the ability to play through what is 5-6 years worth of games in. I mean, I don't think ever one sitting, but you could you do over a couple of months back to back using the same save and the same character, and you can actually see all these permutations. And we could have a podcast in, let's say, October, and our stories could have diverged so much more than our original trilogy, but also so much because of just how much we found, and that blows my mind.
Yeah,
I love it.
Considering that, so Mass Effect, let's say like 2009, 2010, and whenever the third one came out, I can't remember. But yeah, it's like 10 years ago, essentially, we had Mass Effect having these overarching stories that would affect the next game and the next game and would have clear impacts. And it's exactly the same as what obviously Marvel's been doing with its cinematic universe, in things that have occurred in earlier films have had an effect on later films. I'm surprised we haven't seen more companies attempt to do this.
I think the Witcher did it, but nobody ever played fucking The Witcher 2, did they? Come on, let's face it.
The Witcher did do it. You're right.
Yeah.
I think you could answer questions, I think, about events in the second game, which would determine the outcome. Which I think you could do at the start of Mass Effect 2, because am I right in thinking that? One, 2 and 3 were on PlayStation.
Yeah,
right?
you had the comic strip at the beginning of 2 where you could play out the. But like, why don't we see it in more of the bigger titles?
I think it's because in this day and age, I don't think that there is a commitment enough from businesses and brands to back a franchise for that long, and to have the confidence that in an RPG that you're going to be able to have a consistent period of, because by doing that, and if you say that you are committing to a trilogy, and you're committing to a trilogy that follows one character that is completely player created all the way through to the end, and there's something bad about creating a franchise and not finishing it, and killing it halfway through. There's something worse about having that player create a character that they get emotionally attached to, whose story never ends.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that there's probably an element of apprehension to commit to that commitment.
That fucking Firefly all over again.
Exactly. And I could be well cynical about that. That could be me being very cynical, but I think that what BioWare have done, and what they have learnt very clearly with Andromeda, is
But
you have to manage that.
We also have to remember, and we laugh about Andromeda because although actually once they fixed all the bugs, it was actually a very good game. What we have to remember though,
I just want to say that if the Mass Effect train just keeps rolling, I'm super hyped, and then I get to the third one, I'll pick up Andromeda, I'll definitely play through it.
Yeah, and what I was going to say though is we do need to remember that we often talk about, and I mean we've done it here with Mass Effect, and I know we've done it in the past when we've spoken about Skyrim and other franchises and like big ongoing titles that we've spoken about on podcasts before. And we have to remember that we say BioWare, but the BioWare of 2010 that made Mass Effect 2, which was the best Mass Effect, no longer exists. That BioWare isn't, the name BioWare is there, but the people that made that game aren't there anymore. The creative directors, the developers, they've all moved on to other games, other companies. The team that was there 10 years ago is a very, very different team to what it is now. And I think we often forget that. We're like, BioWare should make something as good as they did then. Yeah, but they're different people.
Yeah, I think that stands with a lot of studios as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like we talk about Bethesda and all the mistakes that they make over the years, and all the studios, like we look back and go, oh yeah, but they made Mass Effect 2 and that's fantastic. Why was Andromeda not as good as that? It's like, well, it's a completely different team. Just
Yeah.
the studio is the studio.
No, it's no excuse, Shane. It's no excuse.
I mean, I think it's a fairly reasonable one, to be honest.
But then they've got the
I mean, not
new
for how
Mass
broken
Effect.
Andromeda was.
They've got Mass Effect 4 coming, haven't they? They've announced
Yeah,
that.
the
have.
untitled game, isn't they? Which is, well, we know it's got Liara in, isn't it?
Yeah. So is that
Which I am.
not have they not brought some of the old team back from like 1, 2, 3?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
some of, but
They've
obviously they've
dug
not
them
brought
up,
back the
yeah.
entire team. But there are some elements of the original team back.
Yeah. So
But
that's
I am
exciting,
very
'cause
like
that's
on
exciting
the
because
fence.
that's exciting for me because I'll probably be finished with Mass Effect by the time that game comes out. So
Yeah,
But
probably.
this is the thing, though, is that you start talking about, and to your point, Shane, about, the companies of old that produce the games that we so like really like love and that we sort of so fondly remember, and Mass Effect is clearly one of them. Halo have done the exact same thing, though. They've been wheeling out their sort of the old school guys that made Halo great. They're coming back for Infinite.
What,
They,
Bungie?
they, yes, no, but
They're
even some of the
bringing Bungie
creative,
back.
they're bringing Bungie back. I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
I
But
mean, that's the only way to save Halo at this point.
But okay,
it's Bungie,
I mean,
bitch.
the way you were speaking about Bungie with Destiny a minute ago, I'm not entirely sure Halo is savable at all, Shane.
Well, yeah, that's true. That is true.
But
Even then,
there
again,
is something about companies that are wanting to, they want to. It's that balance of nostalgia and progression. Is that how do they balance that? Because Andromeda, for all of its sins, they were trying to push it forward. They
and it was a
just
good
weren't
game.
able to do it. Yeah, they just it was.
It was a
It
very
just
good
didn't
game once it
stand
was.
up to what it was expected to be.
But this is the thing we hold, and right. I mean, I get it. I know why we do it. We hold a studio to its, in our opinion, best titles. So we hold Bungie to the Halo series, when actually the Bungie now making Destiny is a very different team that was making Halo 10, 20 years ago. And I say we hold BioWare accountable for a game they made 10 years ago, but it's a completely different team now. I am not concerned about Mass Effect 4. Concerned's not the apprehensive is the word I'm looking for about Mass Effect 4, because I do love Mass Effect, much like you guys. The BioWare of now hasn't been doing enough to hold my my faith. Anthem, we all know, was a great idea, poorly executed.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people loved Dragon Age Inquisition.
Giant mech suits are always a great idea, aren't they? But
they always are, yeah. But yeah, Dragon Age Inquisition, I know a lot of people love that game. I personally didn't think it was all that. Dragon Age 2 was awful, but that's starting to go too far back now. And obviously Andromeda, although a very good game, quite poorly made initially. So like my concern right now is the current right now BioWare going to do a good enough job for that franchise, because it will be held accountable against its best title, which is Mass Effect 2. And that's a difficult thing to do, isn't it? And that's the same problem you have with Halo, Ryan. The Halos now, which are being made by a completely different studio, let alone a completely different team, are being held accountable against the best Halos, which were made by a Bungie.
So, fully agree. And they become a victim of their own success. That's the thing.
100%.
As you say, they are held accountable to what has come before, even if it wasn't their own work. So, yeah. But back onto Mass Effect, I am loving enjoying. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Me too.
And hopefully it carries me through to
it's one of the 2 games I've played this week, and I'm hooked on it. Like, I'm sending the kids to bed early so I can be like crack on with it and get playing it and stuff. So
is it because you don't want to be sort of romancing and putting the moves?
That's it. Yeah. I'm visiting the consort and I'm like, yeah, this might be a bit, a bit risky.
It's not for you, kids.
Go to bed, Dad. It's 3:00. Go to bed. I said.
Do it now.
Unless you want to have a biology lesson, it's time for bed.
So now that we've covered that, Mike, what was your other game on the list this week.
Yeah, obviously I've been playing a lot of Mass Effect, but for 1 hour a week, I promised Ellie that we will play It Takes Two, and those have been like the best hours of my week. Like honestly, just this game is fucking incredible. It's from the same people who made the Prison Break game, whatever it's called, A Way Out.
Oh, was it A Way Out?
That's the one. Yeah.
Which was a pretty good game, to be fair.
It was good, yeah. And me and Ellie played it, and we just never finished it. It didn't grab us. But
Same.
This game got the fucking hooks in. It's
So-
like it's almost like every Disney Pixar, film just all smashed into one, and it's about these two parents who are getting a divorce, and they basically get turned into by some kind of strange unexplained magic. They get turned into these like weird creepy voodoo dolls that the daughter's just keeping. Like the daughter just has these voodoo dolls of her parents. Like so, there's some very like deep issues here that are like they do explore it, and they do go into it. Like the story's been really, really solid, and but the gameplay is just so fun as well. Like on top of it, it's just so much fun. It's just an absolute joy to play.
I was just about to say, right, and this sounds like the perfect game for you to play with your daughter. But then when he said parent voodoo dolls, she doesn't need any ideas. Just putting that out there.
It's also one of those things where I had the exact same thought. I was like, you know what, it would be great for me really to sit down and play. And then I started to look into it. I was like, it's about two parents that are getting a divorce and are only like reanimated because of the sadness of their daughter or their kid. I'm sitting there kind of going, I mean, I don't want to say like, Millie, do you want to be the mum or the dad that's really fucked up at this point? Which role do you want to take? As a 7-year-old, it's a little bit too much responsibility to put on her. So I've kind of held it off. I mean, Bug Snacks is enough for her, which I'm kind of worried for her getting to the end because that's dark enough. I don't want to have to like give her another game where she could be like questioning just like adult relationships and shit. It's too soon. I've not got the emotional scope at the moment.
Yeah, it does get real deep into like parental issues and stuff like that. It really does. But the gameplay is so light and fun, and like there's moments where you're like in a plane and you're like the squirrels attacking you, and you have to shoot them with this like it's like nectar gun or something like that, and it's just such an absolute joy. But then your parents are getting divorced all along, so it's like it's kind of sad. But
you can have as much fun as you like, but it's all gonna be shit at the end. So
yeah. Like
I mean, is it fun though? Is it a fun, enjoyable game? I mean, does it lead into that kind of emotional charge stuff at all, or could you ignore that and enjoy just the gameplay itself, or how?
They're very, very much linked. There's dialogue throughout where they're sort of like, oh, you could have done this better, and you're a bitch and whatever, but like,
in those words.
Yeah, they were my words. I was like to Ellie, because she played the mum and I played the dad, obviously. And I was like, she's a fucking bitch. I hate her. And Ellie was like sticking up for her. I was like, yeah, but he's a lazy fucking slob. Like we were like getting into it, like arguing and just being like, well, no, your character's like a bitch, and
you missed an opportunity here when you could have played alternative roles to do like the whole sort of role play.
I know, yeah, we could have, yeah. But,
is it a long game?
I don't know. Like I'm literally taking little sips of it. Like I'm playing it an hour a week, and that's about it. Like I'm doing one level, and then just leaving it, and because I'm enjoying it so much, I don't want it to end. And I do know that it is a relatively short game. It's it's not a fucking 200-hour RPG. It's not King. 3 houses. It's not that. So we are just taking our time with it, but we look forward to it each week. And like I said, the gameplay is super fun. There's lots to do in a level. and it's genuinely funny as well. There are like a ton of laugh out loud moments, and like I say it takes a lot to make me laugh, but like when it's scripted humor, it's like, yeah, that's not even funny, whatever. But this is like genuinely really good, and there's a lot of funny moments in it, and I definitely recommend playing this with your partner, or just maybe just a close friend, but like just if you've got kids and you've got a partner, play with your missus, play it with your husband, whatever. It's such a fun game. Really enjoying it.
Just don't play it with your 7-year-old, or they might think you're getting a divorce.
Do not play this with your children at all.
I mean, adversely though, it's a great way that if you are going for a divorce, maybe you could play for it and then say at the end, by the way,
this is all an educational exercise.
All these really deep topics we'll be discussing throughout this 12-hour game. Well,
surprise!
I hate to break it to you, but
your mum's a bitch. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I will not be playing with my 7-year-old, I don't think.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably safe not to do that.
But I will say,
I won't touch you that.
My one initial down take on it was that the actors, very good voice actors, but initially when you start, it's very like pantomime-y. But it does fade out and it does get better towards the end, and then they start becoming less like, oh my god, we've turned into these fucking clay people or whatever. And initially it's very like, this kind of feels like, a fucking school play or something like that. But it does get better towards the end, definitely. But I mean, I'm maybe about 5 or 6 levels in, so I don't even know if I'm near the end yet. But it definitely is, the story-wise is definitely getting towards the end. But
also conscious of time, but then I guess the question I have as well about this game is that the nature of, I mean, who is it that creates it? Is it I can't remember the name of the people. Obviously, they did the Way Out, A Way Out, and they've done How does the multiplayer aspect of it work? Like, does it feel intrinsically that you two are working together? Because that is obviously the premise of what these guys, Hazelight Studios, that they want to kind of get into these games. Is that
you can't play this game solo.
Yeah,
like you just can't. You need someone else to play it, and the fact that how they've implemented that is, if you buy the game, somebody else can download the game for free and play with your copy, kind of thing. Off the back of your copy. So
they did that with A Way Out as well, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's great. That's an awesome way of getting two people to play a game together. Is like, I bought this game, let's play it. But the other person's like, I haven't got enough money. No worries, fucking download it for free.
Yeah,
it's like, yes, more of that, please. More of that.
Super literal title. It takes 2 to get a divorce. It also takes 2 to play this game.
Yeah. It does take 2.
It's good. It's good to know though that it plays well together, because I think it's one of the things that, especially our generation, that we were used to when we were younger. We did a lot of the LAN gaming. It was all the split screen stuff. That was all the stuff we grew up with.
Yeah.
And that's faded away in time. And actually, things like It Takes Two, it goes back to that.
Yeah, it does.
That was just enjoyable, just couch co-op games.
It does it so well as well.
Yeah.
It also has these moments with the mini games in the level, like you can completely float past them and just completely ignore them. But there's mini games in the level, and some are hidden and some are like super obvious. But you'll go into it, and then it'll put you in a 1v1 type situation in a different mini game. So it'll be like, who can shoot the most balloons or something like that. There's literally like loads of them throughout the levels. And then it becomes like super competitive, and you're like battling each other then, where you intrinsically like you work together throughout the whole game. But it pits you against each other, and those are like super fun as well. Like, especially if you're playing with your partner, where I don't know about the rest of you guys, but with me it's like a super competitive relationship. And I've lost every single fucking minigame apart from one, and I hate it. I hate it so much.
But this will be one of those things as well, where you get to the end of the game, it will turn out that whoever won the more mini games gets like the better settlement in the divorce of these two characters.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I hope not, because I am. She's getting the dog. She's getting the house.
Enjoy taking that doorstop home, Mike.
Yeah, but it's been fun. So yeah. Shane, what have you been playing, dude? Or what have you not been playing?
Yeah, not
Bit of
a
Destiny?
lot.
Cheeky bit of Destiny with the boys?
Well, no. Well, essentially, and I was telling Mike about this before the show started, that like my fallout with Destiny in the last week or so has completely killed any interest I have in video games right now. Like, Destiny has just killed it. I've got no interest to play anything, or anything that I own at least. Every single game I look at, I just look at it and just go, oh, can't be asked.
Not
Can't
even
be
a bit.
bothered.
Not even a bit of lunchtime time crisis.
I mean, I'll be honest, I would play a little bit of Lunchtime Time Crisis, but I haven't had time with work this week. It's been full on. Literally, my time has been in crisis mode. I not had time to think about playing a bit of Lunchtime Time Crisis. Hopefully this week I will get a bit of that though. But I just I've got AC Valhalla, which I still haven't completed, and I'd look at it and I'm like, oh, it just feels like a lot of effort.
Fucking no one's ever completing that game. Let's face it.
Ryan has.
I've done it. Screw you guys, I've done it.
But I just nothing I own, and like I say, it's completely soured. It's just the whole process with what happened with that game has just left a really sour taste in my mouth with gaming at the moment. So I've not played much, to be honest, so I'll be pretty quick on this. But
I hate one game, so I hate them all. Fuck you, games.
Literally. I have dabbled very, very lightly, maybe no more than an hour and a half in Wreckfest, because it's free.
Were you just like, oh shit, I've got to do something for this gaming podcast that I partake in weekly?
Well, A, yes, and B, I know what will snap me out of this, and it's just finding a game that grips me. So all the time
you
that there
were
are games.
Fest.
Well, it's 'cause it's free, and I currently have no money to buy a new game. So I was like, oh, this is free. I'll give it a whirl because it's simple. Like, it meets one of the two categories. It's either progression or fun. And I was like, will this meet the fun category? Let's give it a whirl. So I gave it a whirl, and it is pretty fun actually. I don't think it's got any real longevity in it, but I've played a load of races, it's a PS5 HD version of Destruction Derby on PlayStation 1, basically.
Can I just clarify then? So you know when you sent across that video the other day during the week?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very innocent video, before anyone else is listening, insinuates anything else.
It was a clip of Wreckfest for anyone listening.
On the tractors.
Yes. So the opening race is Destruction is a Destruction Derby race, or I say race, it's just a smash fest. But the first ever race, you're on drivable lawnmowers.
Yes.
So yeah, that is the first race in the game in the like career mode, is lawnmowers, and you're just smashing each other up.
Because you sent that across with no context and actually no follow up. At no point actually have I even asked what the fuck that was.
Exactly.
I assumed it was this.
Yeah,
but
that's what it was.
I actually know it. So it was just lawnmowers battling each other.
Yeah. See, and this is where like Wreckfest gets it really right with the fun element. Like, there's some frustrating races in it, like any racing game, but it does do some of the ridiculous fun quite well. Like, it knows it's ridiculous. It doesn't by any means take itself seriously. And for example, one of the races is it's a survival race on lawnmowers, and you're being chased by somebody driving a combine harvester. And then there was another one I did recently, which was a survival race where, I don't know what they're called, the freewheeler, like Del Boy car.
Reliant Robin.
That's the one, Reliant Robin. You're in a Reliant Robin, and everybody else is in American school buses. And it's just ridiculous in that sense. And you just go through races, you level up your car, like you unlock stuff, you buy new cars, you can buy different vehicles. I just unlocked the Combine Harvester through doing. There was an entire Destruction Derby where everyone was in Combine Harvesters. You just smash the shit out of each other with Combine Harvesters. It's like I say, it's dumb, it's fun, and you can literally drop in and do a race in like 2 minutes and then be done. So I've dabbled in that a little bit.
It's dumb, it's fun, it's quickly done.
Well, exactly.
There we go.
I've not tried the multiplayer yet, but it's not relit my passion for gaming, but it's a fun way to fill 20 minutes at the moment when I've got a bit of spare time. Because I have moments where I feel like I should game because I've got the time there, and that's what's filling those times at the moment. So that's that. Yeah, that's that. What I have also, though, where I haven't been gaming as much, I have watched a lot of TV, watched a lot of different shows. For the Star Wars fans out there, Bad Batch is now out, which is the new Star Wars show on Disney Plus. It's really good.
I saw the trailer for this and it looked fucking sick. It looked so good.
It's really good. So spoiler free, for anyone who doesn't know who the Bad Batch are, they are referred to in the Clone Wars, and they're essentially a group of clones, but they are different to other clones. They've got special mutations that give them an edge over other clones. They also don't have to follow the same orders as other clones. And it basically just follows them. Interestingly, and what did surprise me is when it's set. So it's not set during the Clone Wars. It's set right at the end of the Clone Wars. As in, like, within the first few minutes, you see them during the Order 66 execution elements. So it kind of takes off straight after Order 66.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm in.
Yeah, it gives a really good idea as to sort of like what they were doing. But interestingly, some of the really interesting stuff around it is you see a lot of the Empire going to commit, because their home base is Camino. Obviously, this is their where they were clones. But you get to see a lot of why the Empire got rid of the clone army. Like, there's a lot of politics around the Empire, and and there's a lot of like them testing whether clones are a viable option moving forward for the Empire. And you get to see them sort of building the Empire up. And there's stuff in it that I never realised from Star Wars, like that the Empire does, because obviously, Mike, I know you've watched all the Star Wars because we've discussed this, and Ryan, I know you have as well, but in the original films, you're essentially just told the Empire's evil.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's never really explained to you what the Empire is doing to the people that makes them so evil. I mean, you see them blow up a planet, so you know they are evil. But like the day-to-day politics,
that's about as evil as you can get.
It is.
I mean, it breaks even at least, isn't it, between good and evil?
It is, but like the point from the end of the episode 3 and The New Hope, we never really get to see the politics as to what the Empire is doing planet by planet, and why they're hated so much and why there's a rebellion. And it touches on a lot of that. Like,
that's kind of
one
cool,
of the things.
Cool touch.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of the things they touch on is that you have to every single citizen under the Empire's, like every single planet under the Empire's rule, every citizen on that planet has to be registered within a data system, so the Empire can keep tabs on every single citizen in existence.
Data entry is right up your street, Shane.
But it talks about the fact that well, yeah, it'd be a massive one. But it talks about the fact that
evil.
It's implied in because in A New Hope, like obviously they go to Han and Han takes them off planet and all that happens, and then it never really explains as to why they need to leave, why they go to a smuggler to get off planet. It's just, they need a ship and they haven't got one.
Yeah.
But what you learn in this is actually that the Empire monitors every single piece of traffic on and off of planets. So every single person has to be registered to be able to leave a planet. and it's their way of controlling everyone. And you get to learn a lot of like these little things that Star Wars has never really addressed.
I feel like it's only ever implied in the original trilogy, where it's like, you know, we might get this through this blockade, we might not, you know.
Exactly. Whereas this like really kind of explains the ins and outs. So it's on episode 3 or 4 now.
3, I think, isn't it?
But yeah, I mean, the first episode's an hour, then they drop down to 30 minutes after that. But I would definitely, if you're a Star Wars fan, it'll be right up your street. If you're like myself and Mike, and you're sick of the Jedi stuff, but you're interested in the wider universe,
I was just gonna say, like, how Star Warsy is it? You know, is it Mandalorian or is it, you know, Jedi's and shit?
It's more Mandalorian. And out of the 3 episodes so far, I have seen the grand total of 2 Jedis, and they were on screen for no more than 10 minutes out of 2 hours worth of footage.
That'll do for me.
So yeah, the Jedis are they're spoken about a lot, but they're not. They don't focus.
Yeah, I don't mind that, but like, you know.
Yeah, there's none of the key characters are Jedis. They're all, because the whole group is clones, and it just focuses in as them as clones, and it follows that much like almost like a kids' TV show in a sense that each episode has its own story for that episode, but there's that overarching story. So it's very like each one feels a little bit self-contained, but you know there's this bigger overarching story, much like The Mandalorian did. Like each episode had its own little self-contained monster of the week sort of situation. But yeah, it's
Star Wars as a series could do that really well as well.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying what I've seen so far. I'd definitely give it a shout. And it's an interesting look at the clones as well, and again how the clones work and the reason, because again we all know what Order 66 is. And it's implied as to how Order 66 was given, but it's never really explained as to why. Not why Order 66, we know why, but how it like works so well. Yeah. So they talk a lot about how the clones physically cannot refuse an order and stuff like that. It's like built into their genetics that they physically cannot refuse an order, because that's always been my biggest question is, well, why are all these clones just following this order without ever being like, none of them are turning around going, well, this is fucking weird. But yeah, it addresses a lot of that, as well as the fact that they physically can't. They are genetically built to follow the orders of their highest ranking officer, and their highest ranking officer is the Emperor. But yeah, no, it's definitely worth a shout. So if you're into Star Wars, I'd give it a whirl. If you're not, and you like The Mandalorian, give it a whirl, basically.
Just and while we're on the back of some Netflix and chill type shit, Castlevania season 4, is it?
Yeah, season 4.
Yeah, season 4
is out, and that was news to me recently, and I'm usually like pretty hot on when shit comes out, but it's out,
mate.
Just in case.
I've watched 9 of 10.
I've not seen any yet, so that's tomorrow. That's tomorrow.
It's very good. It definitely doesn't drop the pace from where it's been. It still feels a bit like flighty. There's a couple of stories going on at the same time, but to be honest, the combat is there. Like the animation is there. It's a very enjoyable little romp to watch in the background. So yeah,
it's definitely on my backlist.
And I guess as well,
I'm so in love with Cypher. I'm just putting that out there.
I mean, you need to clear for it pretty quickly, because I think that landed on Thursday. So Castlevania landed on Thursday. Now, if I remember correctly, is it Love, Sex and Robots, whatever it's called?
It's already landed.
Love, Death and Robots.
Friday.
Yeah.
Love, Death and Robots, not sex.
That was that was the next thing I was going to mention. That is out as well.
That is also out.
I'm so excited about this shit, man.
It's on my list because there's just so much to watch at the moment.
Have you not seen the first season? Love, Death and Robots.
I've loved it. Yeah, I watched it. Okay. I think I watched it like the same couple of days you did. I remember speaking to you about it.
Yeah.
But
I cannot recommend it enough. It's so fucking good. Love, Death and Robots. This is we moved on from Castlevania now. We're in Love, Death and Robots now.
Just there's just so much at the moment. Like between Castlevania, Love, Death and Robots. Let's say you've got Bad Batch has just come out.
But then as well, you've got Army of the Dead. That's the
Army of the
21st.
Dead's on its way.
That's in what, like 5 days from the recording. So when this lands, actually, I believe
that should be out.
It should be out in 2 days. So,
Disney is still knocking out some solid shows at the moment. Like the Ducks has still got 2 more episodes left. We've got Loki coming. What is it, next month? If you're into
it, that's the 9th of June now, isn't it? So that's not far off, really.
I know that a lot of our listeners aren't interested, but for those that are into anime, like the anime season this month is like this spring season is absolutely insanely good. I've been so wrapped up in anime at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Castlevania is about as anime as I get. But you know, there's all this shit that's come out, like Castlevania, Love, Death and Robots. The one thing that I've watched 3 times already, and it's only been out like a few weeks, maybe a week or so, is Mitchell versus the Machines, and it's so fucking good, man.
I haven't watched that yet. Is it? So it's good, is it?
Mate, yeah, watch it with your daughter because it's so good.
Yeah. And they've finally added Mortal Kombat to Amazon Prime to rent. You can finally rent. Yeah, the new one. It's now rentable in the UK. On Amazon Prime, $15.99 to rent. So I need to see that as well now. It's just too much.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There was an anime I was going to actually bring today to discuss with you guys. I told Ryan about it the other day, and then I thought, no, it's probably best not to because it's really fucking dark. So we'll save that for another day.
Yeah, but we're not discussing Wonder Egg today.
No, but anyway, we've been talking about what we've been playing for a very long time.
Yeah.
So let's get into our next topic, because otherwise we're going to have a very long episode, and I do have work tomorrow.
Let's do it. So, let's go for a long one.
Our topic this week, I know, but I also have a partner who's going to be trying to sleep pretty soon. So our topic this week is: do you find games emotional like you would a film? I'm gonna pose all the questions to you in one, so we can just have an open discussion about this. What for you is the most emotional part of a game that you've played? Like, what is your specific emotional elements to games? How does the length of a game compared to a film allow you to build emotional bonds with the characters differently? Does the fact that you are taking an active part in the story change how you feel about the story or characters? Does that change make it more or less emotional? Ryan, we'll start with yourself.
There's a lot to digest here, man.
This feels like the sort of the task that like an English teacher would give you as a task. Like, please explain in 2,000 words or less. Where do I start? I mean, do I find games emotional like I would a film? I find games more emotional than films.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that. Like. Yeah.
The only emotion, and I guess if you're going to be pedantic about this, the only emotion that I find I get more from films than I do games is horror. I do not do horror films well. Anything else, I find an emotional attachment to games significantly. Like it gels a lot a lot easier for me.
I kind of disagree with you on the horror thing, but I'll talk about that when it gets to my shout.
The only reason that is, I guess, in that respect, is because, and it comes back to that element of control, is that in a film, in a horror film in particular, you have zero control. You are the mercy of the character that's doing it. So even if they're going into a room, turn the light on, turn the light on, turn the light on. They don't turn the light on and they get stabbed in the throat. You're like, well, okay. I mean, I would have turned the light on, or I would have done something else. In a horror game, a horror game it creates that sense of horror. You still have that fear, but you also have that sense of control.
Yeah,
more control. It's still scripted, but you still have that more control. Which is why the reason I wanted to call out horror more than anything else. The reason, because this was one of the ideas that I was thinking, and I want to go straight to the reason why I thought of this topic. have you played? I know that Shane, you have. Mike, have you played Kingdom Hearts?
Are you talking about the first one?
The first one, yeah.
Yes, but I don't think I ever finished it.
I never finished it either.
You never finished it either.
I think I got very, very close to the end, like literally last boss, and I just couldn't do it.
So the reason for me is because whenever I speak to people about emotional games, it covers off all of your questions here, Shane. So the long story short for Kingdom Hearts is that you play Sora. You go for, you've been separated from your best friend and then your love interest, as much of a love interest as you can as like a 12-year-old boy. You get separated from these guys, you get sucked off into a hole, excuse the expression, and you spend the entire game trying to find these guys. You fight through all of this shit. You drag yourself through all of this like literal darkness, evil. You go through this story. You get basically killed. You come back. You spend this entire game trying to find your best friend and your love interest. And at the end, you find your best friend. And no, right, okay. Spoilers, by the way, for anyone else that's here. If anyone wants to do it, I'm going to do spoilers for 30 seconds.
I think
back.
I think this whole section might get spoilery. That's just forewarning.
I mean, when we're doing spoilers though, like looking at the list, there's very few games on here that I think are spoiler relevant. Kingdom Hearts 1 has been out for like 20 plus years.
This is very true. But still,
at this point, like, there has to be a cut-off. If it's a game that's come out in the last 3 or 4 years, reasonable. Spider-Man, for example, reasonable. Kingdom Hearts 1, unreasonable. Spoil away.
For me though, it still stands out. You spend this entire game, you invest all this time trying to find your best friend and your love interest. You find your best friend, and he locks himself behind a door into a realm of permanent darkness. Fuck. Okay, fine. Oh look, there's your love interest. As soon as you meet your love interest, like the land disappears and you get separated, and she gets moved away again, off into some world unknown, and you can't then find her again.
Been there,
and then
dude. Been there.
And then the game stops. Oh, I know. My entire emotional teams, like all the girls would find all the excuses they could to leave me. But it was like one of these things where you sit there, you've done this entire game, and there's this one very poignant moment, and he's reaching out and she's reaching out, and I was like, fuck. And that was when I was in my like 14, 15, 16-year-old emo phase. So obviously I was very pent up. I was going through puberty. Everything kind of hit me, but it really struck with me. And ever since then, for me, I've always found that the longer you spend with these characters and the longer you invest yourself in their journey, the more it resonates, even if it's not something that you necessarily share as a personal view. Do you know what I mean? Because you are invested in that entire journey.
Yeah, you definitely understand people's plights, like the longer time you spent with them. Like you understand their motives and their reasons for doing things, and then that's probably why it resonates.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say then is, in reflection, I've played that game recently. I wasn't nearly as emotionally moved, but I found that my personal circumstance and the way I've grown up obviously impacts on how I see games as like emotionally. So things like The Last of Us, I played that when that first came out, and the start of The Last of Us is very powerful. There's a clearly very emotional bit in the first sort of hour, which I think stands out for most people.
Every time I replay that game, that initial beginning section is like heart wrenching for me, because I have two daughters, and it's just like.
And that was it. And that was giving me my question, was that it was heart wrenching when I first played it, and then once my daughter came in, and I have a daughter in her life. When I played through that again, because ahead of The Last of Us 2, I played through The Last of Us first, and that hit me so much harder the second time than it did the first time.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like, and I think it's because you have. They've done a great job of building this character and writing the story. Even from such, you're not emotionally bonded. You shouldn't be emotionally bonded to this character, really, because you don't know her. You've not spent much time with her.
You play as her for like 2, 3, like 10 minutes or something, isn't it? It's not long.
But
I just want to interject here, because I both agree and disagree with some of the points you've just made. And this is just my own personal opinion. I'm not saying that you're wrong. Looking at taking from Kingdom Hearts and The Last of Us, one of the things that I find is I 100% agree. Games can be and are often more emotional than film. In fact, I don't think I can name a film that has made me physically cry, whereas I can name a couple of games that have made me physically cry. Outside of anime, I can name about a million animes that have made me cry.
Tell me some games that made you cry. Well, I've never seen you cry, Shane.
Oh, mate, if you want to see me cry, just come around and we'll watch an like anime makes me cry like
Star Wars Fallen Order.
But yeah, I mean that was quite for a different
Destiny 2.
But like live action films never make me cry. Anime or like nearly always, games sometimes. But anyway, getting away from my tears. So what I find with games is for me a game like Kingdom Hearts, I don't find as emotional. And the reason for that is when you compare it to a game like, I mean, some of the games that have really hit me emotionally, obviously Last of Us, both of them, The Walking Dead, the Telltale one, Life is Strange, the first Life is Strange, not the future ones, so I didn't play those. Even the first, like, Tomb Raider reboot, I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head. And that the reason for that is Kingdom Hearts has, I mean, I can't remember too much of the first one, but definitely when I think about the second one, the more, I think there is an element of the longer you spend with a character, yes, you become obviously emotionally attached to them, but there can be an element of spending too long with a character that you then become numb to it, especially if the nature of the gameplay is very repetitive and continuous, or there's like a heavy leveling up feature. So Kingdom Hearts for me, because there's just so many like mini battles in between the big emotional points, I don't find that game as emotional as something like Last of Us, where every single piece of combat you get involved in feels like it's been scripted into the story perfectly and feels like it's there for a purpose. And I find that for me changes it massively as to whether I find it as emotional or not. I think if Last of Us was a 100-hour third-person shooter with just random missions in between where you just had to kill clickers to rack up scores to be able to unlock the next area, even if it had the same story but it was just dragged along 100 hours with loads of shitty gameplay in between, I wouldn't find it nearly as emotional.
I feel like...
So for you, it's the immersiveness then. It's the fact that you are able to continually feel that plight and not have that experience interrupted.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think it's difficult to feel like super emotional for a character that's like gone from level 1 to level 100 and can one hit a boss. As opposed to when you think about like Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us, or more so Telltale's Walking Dead, which is also now very old, so I am going to spoil the ending if you've never played it, but Telltale's now been shut down, so should have played it when it came out. But the end of that game, where you've spent this entire game as this adult male who just happens to come across a very young child, and you're basically looking after her as your own child, and then for your character to ultimately make the ultimate sacrifice for this child that you literally met not a month ago in game time, but again, everything you do felt relevant. And you're just, I think, like say, there is that immersion element, but it's the fact that your character still feels human and still feels just like anybody else. Whereas I don't feel that from Sora, who can travel back and forth to and from planets and fight 5,000 heartless at once without breaking a sweat.
His shoes are too big for me to feel any kind of emotion towards him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what they say about the Cyberman shoes. But I mean,
big shoes, big heart.
big stocks, yeah. Um, but I think as well, though, to be fair, it is, and it comes down to the fact that it's of the time as well, isn't it? It's the when you play these games, you generally go into these with a certain mindset or a certain experience or a certain level of maturity. I don't find Kingdom Hearts 1 nearly as moving playing it now, or when I play. I think I played it. When did Kingdom Hearts 3 come out? A couple of years ago now.
Yeah, 2016, 17.
Yeah, I played through 1 and 2 ahead of that, and it was touching, but it wasn't. It was nowhere near as emotional. And I think that sometimes the experience should be encouraging you to you should feel this is emotional. Or, if you are feeling you're in your particular emo phase where I had my long straightened hair and I was very in touch with all of my feelings. Maybe I was a bit more primed, but it's always stuck with me as quite an emotional moment.
But it's that, for me, it's that almost.
But I never considered the game. I never considered what you said in terms of the fact that you have such a fractured narrative.
And yeah, exactly
through.
that. Because so you get. I mean, I'm just gonna make up a game where at the beginning your loved ones get snatched away from you, and then it's 100 hours of completely irrelevant to that storyline battles that happen for you to then finally get the cookie at the end of that storyline that ties in with the 100 hours ago. You've kind of become numb to what happened at the beginning of the game by the time you get the outcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think games are in a position where they are better. They're better at putting the narrative together. I mean, the other one that I've obviously put here is Spider-Man. Now, that is, I guess, a spoiler. I should probably put a spoiler alert here. And I won't necessarily address exactly what happens, but have you both played Spider-Man on PS4, I assume?
Yeah.
Do you both know the moment I'm talking about?
Yeah, towards the end, and yeah.
Towards the end, yeah. So,
but closer than towards the end, but yeah.
After the boss battle, you've done all this, and
basically the end.
Yeah, and the one thing that gets me with that is that I'm obviously very biased with Spider-Man anyway because I love Spider-Man, but it caught me off guard. I think that was one of the other things that did that.
I totally agree with that. For me, it was this moment, and it was just it was like, holy shit! I've never seen this before. This has never happened before.
Yeah.
See, I think the thing with that game is that it's been quite clever in that it didn't need to build a relationship with us with that character because I think there's already a sort of a relationship with the Spider-Man universe with most people anyway because of the movies that we've had over the years, that everybody's got a bit of an understanding around Spider-Man anyway.
Yeah.
But again, even if you take out all the side stuff, Spider-Man on PS4 is a not short, but it's a fairly straight run to get the main campaign done. And again, everything feels relevant, and it's not so long that you become numb to it. And even if you do all the side stuff, what is it, 30 hours tops?
Yeah. I feel like it's a really well-paced game.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of its,
but then I guess
story
the other argument, the other argument as well is that Kingdom Hearts 1, the whole idea is that, and to my point, you are chasing for your best friend and your love interest for a long time, and actually having all these side quests, it stops that kind of that narrative flow because that urgency is lost. Whereas the events at the end of Spider-Man aren't evident at the start of Spider-Man. So they are things that recur throughout, and it's much more of a natural narrative. So it's
100%.
more of a disappointment at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, where you're like, it's almost like you've got a sneeze, and you're so close to being able to sneeze, and then someone says bless you before you sneeze, and you can't sneeze, and you have to wait until the second sneeze to actually have that release. Do you know what I mean? Because they are the worst. But it's because you've built up to something and you've had it stripped away from you. Whereas what Spider-Man does is it builds you up, and it builds the stories in small arcs with an overarching arc. and then an emotional crescendo at the end. And Last of Us is the same. It starts very, very strong, very, very emotional, and then it builds it up again. But and you're right, Shane. It's to do with the fact that they don't take the pedal off that narrative or that kind of that not customer. Oh my god, that character focus and that push that you just kind of want to keep going and you want to keep learning. There's no side diversions. There's nothing like that. Not enough to take away from the story or the development.
Well, the only real side diversion if we're talking Last of Us 1 specifically, the only real side diversion is just as narratively harrowing as any other part of the game, which is the bit where you play specifically as Ellie and go through that little mini storyline of how Ellie tries to survive on her own. Is almost like a bubble storyline within the game.
That's so horrendous as like just a moment in the game as well.
But like, if you look at the entirety of like all of the horrific things that happen in Last of Us, that little scene there is almost the equivalent of everything else that happens, but in a very short amount of time at one specific, very young character. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah. I think the one thing that Last of Us has against all these other titles is sort of the way it's created and the way it's made is very filmic. It's very like scripted and acted out, and every moment is really like mapped out almost and directed from Dr. Uckman himself.
Well, I almost feel like that specific section of gameplay with Ellie is strategically placed to switch your emotions back on. Like it's at a point where you're not becoming numb to anything, but like the pace has slowed down a tiny bit.
You have killed a lot of people by then, and it's kind of
you have exactly. You've killed a lot of people by then. You kind of, like you say, you're not necessarily numb to the storyline, but you are numb to the fact that you are murdering a lot of people. And the pace starts to slow down a bit, and then all of a sudden it goes bang. No, get your fucking emotions back in this because we're about to throw some real horrific shit at you.
Yeah.
So that when you come out of that scene, you're primed for the ending.
Yeah. And
but then
The Last of Us 2, if I could just mention that, I won't go spoiler territory. It has a similar moment where it literally like kicks you back into reality, and it's like you're murdering a lot of people. Like this is a bad thing. And I don't know if you know the moment I'm talking about in the hospital in like the lower levels.
Yeah.
Without going spoilery, we literally you have to murder someone, and it's like this is brutal and harrowing, and you shouldn't do this, but you are doing it anyway.
Well, I think Last of Us 2 actually does it twice. There's two elements there where I think it really pulls you back in. No, it goes right. You've just had a lot of gameplay that's quite repetitive in that you might be becoming numb to what you're doing now. Let's just pull you back down. And those two scenes are the one you just spoke about, and later in the game when you're with the kid and going across the boards and the top, and like again, there's a point there where it's like you've just had maybe 5 hours of just consistent movement and killing and movement and killing.
Yeah, you're like
we're just gonna fucking just full on like fucking pull you back in emotionally really quickly and in such a jarring way. And that's what I think what you're saying about Spider-Man, Ryan, is it's done in such a jarring way that you don't have time to emotionally react to it or like prepare for it. It's just like shit. My emotions are now in play and I can't stop them.
Yeah, and I think the thing is as well is that one of the questions you asked at the start, Shane, was about do you find games emotional like you would a film? I think that the benefit that a game has is it gives you more time to have almost your guards taken down to be caught off guard like that, but while also giving you enough reason to give a shit. Because a film you can be given an hour, 2.5 hours tops, for example, with these characters to really understand it. There are some series where you've spent a long time with these characters over a long period of time. And like MCU is a prime example. You've spent a long time with these characters. Tony Stark, whatever happens to him at the end, I don't know. I choose to ignore whatever happens in Endgame. I haven't watched the end of that yet. You know, he has this massive arc, but that's very fragmented. Whereas, as you say, when you come to these games, you know, you are snapped back to reality very quickly, very suddenly, and very much out of your control, but also in your control as well to a certain degree, because it is you. It's your agency, it's your character that you're playing, and you're invested in this story. And it's difficult, and I think it makes that snap for emotional kind of that feeling that bit stronger, in my opinion, anyway.
I would also, I think it's relevant to mention that it's all within context, because there is some emotional elements that I don't think games will ever, or some emotional stories, for example, that I don't think games will ever be able to tell better than film, and vice versa. I don't think like The Last of Us will ever be as emotional in a film as it was in the game.
No.
But for example, you could never tell Marley and Me in a game and it remain as emotional as it is.
Yeah. I was thinking more like Schindler's List, but you know, like Marley and Me.
Well, I mean, Marley and Me makes pretty much everyone cry, because it's really fucking sad.
The first minute, the first 5 minutes of Up, you know, you can't put that in a game, can you?
But yeah, you can't, like, a story about a dog having a great life and then dying, like, that's never going to make a particularly great game, or a game that's particularly emotional. So it's just, look, there's obviously certain stories, and games, I think games tend to
I feel like if one studio could make Marley and Me into a game, it'd be Naughty Dog. They could do it.
No,
they could do
it'd be the guys who made Nintendo.
I mean, I see on your point that I disagree, because I think that there is nothing. It's all about character development, right? And it's all about time you spend with your character and stuff. And I think there are plenty of animals that have had such an emotional tie.
There is, but we're talking about stories that have no real action element to them.
I also think I don't think that I actually think that game wouldn't be hard to create if someone put it to it. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of games actually out there that we probably have missed, where it's very much about the the connection and the relationship between the protagonist and their animal.
Actually have.
Let's just talk about Shadow of the Colossus for a second.
I mean, Shadow of the Colossus.
Amazing example.
Yeah, you know.
It is, and that is a great example of the dog.
But I actually had PTSD of the horse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think like the key point I'm trying to make is that generally when it comes to films don't do a good job of making horror or action emotionally charged in a way that's outside of, I mean, horror's got its ability to make you jump, but I don't think they particularly do a good job of making things emotionally charged, particularly in an action film.
Right.
Whereas games, because of the nature of games, and that generally there will be some form of action involved via the gameplay, they will tend to tell those sort of stories in a much more emotionally charged way than films ever will. The same way that like a romance film, or let's say Marley and Me, or Schindler's List, are films that would struggle to have the same sort of impact in a game. Not saying they can't be made; it's not impossible. But I think there's two different contexts there, two different styles of story. But I do actually have an example that doesn't go against what I'm saying, but does address a slightly different version of game, and that is the walking simulator. I know a lot of people don't like these. I know a lot of people find them extremely boring, but I've played 3 or 4 of them now.
Yeah, but they tell a story, don't they? They it's a very scripted story.
Yes, but there is one that stands out to me. Didn't make me cry, but it was very emotionally charged. And that was Firewatch. Don't know if you ever played that.
Oh yeah.
Because And so for any of the listeners that haven't played it, it essentially just play as a guy who is trying to escape from the world and goes out to be a fire watcher, someone who just basically lives in the woods somewhere in America, I don't know where it is, away from everybody, like doesn't have any contact with anybody in person for months on end to keep an eye on fires, and the only contact he has is via one radio. But obviously at the beginning of that, he talks a lot about how his wife has got like early onset dementia, and that he's struggling with like his own personal mental health, and that he's feeling bad for not being able to be there for his wife. And I think that does a very good job of telling some real human stories. But like I say, it's not made me cry like The Last of Us or Walking Dead did. It's not brought a tear to my eye. No. Just a single tear, though.
It doesn't happen, though, does it? Sometimes it always do is move you and make you relate. That's the thing, is that if it's one of those things where it puts you in a situation where you don't want to skip the cutscene, where you don't want to fast forward through it, and you're sitting there kind of going, shit, how should I feel? Sometimes even questioning how you should feel about this. And The Last of Us 2 in itself is a prime example. You're sitting there and you kind of go, I don't know how I feel. Is equally as emotional as being really happy, really sad, really angry, because you cannot fathom what you've just seen and how you as a person have never been in that situation. And fortunately, you've never been in that situation to have to even consider how you would react or how you should feel. And I think that's one of the things that games allow you to do. And sometimes the games allow you to have more time in that world with these characters to build up that experience, to have these horrible situations given to you in the safety of your own home, to kind of go, well, okay, how would you react? How should I feel? Like, what was the right answer? And sometimes there isn't a right answer. Last of Us 2 is a prime example.
Like a great thought-provoking piece of gaming or whatever.
And I'm pretty sure, literally, you'll have people that will say literature does the exact same thing, TV does the exact same thing, and all of it will. And I think it's all about having that, being presented with characters and situations that are both relatable and human. And you said it earlier on, Shane, it's human stories to a certain degree that make you just kind of go, how would I feel? Even if you don't necessarily agree with what they're feeling, how should I feel when I watch this person? How can I empathize with them? And I think that sometimes you're given more time with these guys or more time in this world, it gives you more chance to empathize. And then
definitely. And there's just and I completely agree with you. And obviously, and I tend to find that the most emotionally charged media that I watch is TV shows. And like, as I said earlier, specifically of the animated kind. And so, I mean, there's one show that specifically come into mind that I just could never see it being in a game format. And it just...
Is it My Little Pony?
No, it was called Your Lie in April, and it was a fucking clusterfuck of emotions. But the point I was about to make is video games do also have their limitation when it comes to this. And the limitation being that it's a video game, in that I agree with what you're saying, like how would I feel? How would I react in that situation? But a lot of the times a video game doesn't give you the option of how you would react in that situation. It gives you the option to play out how this character would react in that situation.
Yeah.
For example, in a situation where I'm being...
I think...
I'm not a fighter. My point being, like, you look at Joel, some of the situations he's in where he gets out of it through pure combat and like brutally beating someone to death. I'm pretty sure that's not how I would have got out of that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I would have died.
Run away.
Like, just putting that out there. Yeah, I would have run away. 100%. Because I am a pussy. But there's some situations like that where although yes, you're thinking, it's how how would it make me feel? But it's also how would this character react? Not necessarily how you would react, because games aren't in a position where you can react in any possible way. There's a certain set of buttons that you can press, or a certain set of actions.
I think, like, one thing that video games doesn't have over movies is that a video game has to still be fun. Like, it has to still be entertaining and fun and to play. So, you can have these really emotionally charged moments, but then as soon as you come out of those, it still has to be fun gameplay, and you still have to want to keep going and going and going. With the exception of horror, because for me, those games aren't fun, but they are fucking emotionally charged, especially for me.
Yeah.
Just the wrong emotion.
Yeah.
You're right. The Last of Us 2 for me was the exact same thing, which was it's an incredible game, but there's so many points where I sat there and I would put it down and I would kind of go, I don't want to carry on.
Yeah,
I want to carry on, but I also don't want to carry on. But even there was a certain point where I was like, this isn't fun, because emotionally I was like,
I'm done.
Where is this going? I'm done. Where is this going? How should I feel? And it's built this world, and it's built this. It's almost and again, not to get too kind of like deep into it, but it's a thought process. It's given you a thinking exercise about how should people react, how should you react, and you sit there kind of going, you turn that console off, and you go, I am more knackered now after playing
than
I was when I started it. And
totally.
it's both a great, it's great for the immersion, but sometimes sometimes I just want to turn on and just shoot some aliens, like on Destiny. But then that in itself is emotional for Shane, for example, and Shane
but
enraged. So.
that's a different emotion. But no, exactly what you're saying. Like, if you take The Last of Us 2, and this is fairly spoiler free, and when we're talking about like how would you react, and like, is this the way that people should react? Well, nobody ever. Well, I mean, there probably is some people, but they're sick in the head. But nobody ever wants to fire an exploding arrow into a dog's head as it's next to its owner, so it blows its owner's leg off as well.
Yeah.
But in that game, sometimes you have to do that shit because you need to get through that area, and the only way through that area is by murdering every single person in front of you.
Well, then you feel bad for it as well, which it's like.
I mean, you're doing the two when the fucking like
the dogs are whimpering like next to their sort of. No, but it's like when the dog just whimpers after you've killed the owner, you're sitting there kind of going, oh man, that's life.
You're like, I'm such a terrible person. Now it's time to kill the dog because it's in my way.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm gonna have to kill the dog and the other 30 people behind him because, like you say, because it's a game, it's forcing your hand to play the game.
Yeah.
But I think what it does do then is, and actually, talking about, a lot of people think that video games sort of, they glorify violence and stuff. GTA is all about excessive violence, excessive sort of robbing, murdering and stuff. It just shows that you can have very, very clear emotional consequences within a game that make you question how you should be feeling, even if you do or you don't. I mean Last of Us 2, I remember, and it was and the worst part about that game is it's retrospective in hindsight, isn't it? You play through as Ellie, you go into the aquarium, you kill the dog, and you think, it's just a dog. It's just a dog protecting it. Then you slap to the second half, and you have the story with the dog. And only once you start doing that, you kind of go, oh shit, it's that dog. It's that dog. And everything starts to fall into place. And it just, I'm actually getting PTSD at this point as I'm talking through it.
Just before we wrap up this, Mike, I know you've got a comment to make. I just wanted to quickly say, anybody who claims that games like GTA glorify violence should really play the Wolfenstein games, because I think that's the only game I've ever played that genuinely glorifies violence. I mean, those games are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or Doom. Doom's pretty glorified in its violence. Anyway, Mike, you were saying? This Mike disappeared.
Sorry, I'm back.
What is happening? Oh, there we go.
I think he was suffering with PTSD.
I didn't see your message.
The Last of Us, I think.
I didn't see your message. But yeah, no, like if
I just went for a cry. I'm back.
no, yeah, if you think that glorifies violence, I say like Wolfenstein is on a whole nother level.
Yeah,
and it's
I mean,
ridiculous.
But
But
Wolfenstein's
yeah,
fun as hell, and yeah.
oh, it's super fun. But Mike,
I mean,
do you have a comment you wanted to close us up on this conversation? Because we should probably move on.
About Last of Us, it's just a glorious masterpiece of storytelling, and I think everyone should play it. Go buy Last of Us, everyone.
it's a shame actually because I'd like to pick. I mean, I think that this is a topic we should discuss again because obviously we're talking about like we're speaking about a narrative
Yeah.
emotion, and actually it's a shame we haven't if we've chatted too much about like The Last of Us and stuff because you had some good points in the notes actually, Mike, about the emotional attachment to characters. So like Three Houses and XCOM and permadeath, and I think it's not one for today.
I did pop this in the notes, and
yeah,
because we have been playing like Three Houses a lot, me and you, Ryan. And when a character dies, or like specifically in like XCOM as well, does it really good where it has its, your character dies, they're gone. They're gone. That's it. They're gone.
Yeah,
and if you're fucking attached
maybe permadeath and player-to-character attachment is a topic we should cover in another episode because I feel like we could probably talk about that in quite a bit of detail.
Put that down as part 2 for me. Go on, let's do it.
Yeah,
I'll come back for
that being said, let's finish off with the news.
Yeah, so our news this week is brought to you by Ryan. Ryan, go ahead.
Well, I brought this news partly to antagonise you, Shane. not to antagonise. Antagonise is the wrong word, but we've obviously had a heated discussion. I think we've got I want to say a neutral party because I'm not sure what Mike says on this.
So it's three Destiny stories, right?
There's you're right actually. How did you know that? This is PlayStation, and that's another thing that really sort of heats Shane up sometimes. I don't know if you've seen this, and this might be actually a bit of a sore point for you, Mike. You haven't got a PS5 yet, have you? Yeah. So you may be able to give us some good insight. PlayStation 5 have announced that from I think it's 11th of June, we can now start to pre-order the new controller colours. So you've got Cosmic Red and Midnight Black. They look really sexy.
Yeah, beautiful controllers. Can I just interject with, let's give us some fucking consoles, Sony. Give us some consoles to buy.
And this is exactly what I fucking said.
So this is the reason why I want to bring it up was because the second story that I wanted to tell you was that Sony are now saying that some of these PS5 shortages could last well into next year. So it could be intermittent in terms of just availability. Now, I am quite impressed by the fact that they're putting these colours out. I think they look really good.
They look sick. Can't wait to get one. I might just get one before I get a PS5.
Yeah, see, we had this discussion earlier in the week, and although I agree the controllers look sick, I think personally, from a public perception point of view, it's the wrong time. When right now you can't get the consoles out for most of the population to actually buy one, when you haven't delivered on the extended storage, the fixing the rest mode, and your controllers currently are suffering from drift issues, is it the right time to just be releasing new color controllers, or should the focus be elsewhere? Yeah. That's my view. Right now is not the right time from a public perception point of view. The focus should be elsewhere because at the moment it just makes it look like they're just putting these out to try and get more money out of the people that have already got consoles, and they don't give a shit about those that don't have consoles because they're not putting out new consoles.
Yeah, for me as a non fucking console owner, I was just like, that'd be great. That'd be great if I had a console. That'd be so good. I'd be so hyped.
Okay, but then so there's two parts to this. So for me as well, I mean, the way I see it is obviously there is a team within Sony that work on peripherals. And they would have been working on these peripherals way before there would have been constrictions potentially on the shortages of PlayStation.
Yeah.
Which means that they aren't, you can't expect these teams to just say, okay, well, we can't not release these. We can't not release
No, but you can. And this is the thing.
We
are very knowledgeable. We are
I
very
don't-
knowledgeable in the games industry and how it works. We are a lot more knowledgeable than a lot of the basic public. They're not going to know that. All they're going to see is Sony. It's not that the peripheral team has come out publicly and gone, we're the peripheral team, we've built this for you. PlayStation themselves have put these out. So PlayStation as a company, as Sony, could have just turned around and said, great work on those peripherals, keep going, keep creating more. We're just going to hold them back a minute though, because publicly right now this is not the right time. We need to fix what we haven't got in play right now, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to look at this like Mike and say, great work, Sony, except I don't mean shit because I ain't got anything to use it with.
Whereas I don't see it that way. I see it more the fact that this is a supplement to what is out there, so they can start. It's not like it's not if it was a like a limited thing, I would get it. I think it is fine for them to announce these.
But is that because you have a PS5?
But I think if I was in Mike's position, I would kind of sit there and kind of go, I like that red one.
Yeah,
I
like them. They're great.
Control.
Yeah, they're great.
No, but it also means that I have two controllers. I would be sitting there and going, at least this way, when I get my console in 2023, I can have a red one with it. I can have a red controller with it. I have that choice.
But and this isn't.
I didn't
this
have
is
that choice in November, and I now have two white ones. When in reality, I probably would have a red and a black one. Well, maybe
red and a white
one. I don't know.
But
I don't know. I got that choice. I never had that choice.
But again, it was timing for me. It's the timing. They announced these controllers within the same 2-week period as confirming that the PS5 shortages will go into next year. At least put a month's gap between them. Like,
yeah, I agree. It's poor timing, and
to go. Oh, by the way, we're still not going to be able to give you consoles for another year. But here's some shiny new controllers. It just poor timing all round. I think if they had waited another month, 2 months, maybe even up to 6 months, and let the news of the fact that shortages are going to continue sink in first, and then let that pass, then it would have been better timing. But I think the timing they've chosen right now is poor timing from a public point of view, and it looks a bit shitty on them, in my opinion.
But then, would you not want them to be? On the other side, then I think what was it? As of March, I think it was, they sold 7.8 million PlayStations.
When you put it that way, that's enough, innit?
Like, do you not think that they should? That you would also want to be supporting your current player base, in the fact that you're saying,
yeah, they should by fixing rest mode and releasing the storage upgrades that they promised 6 months ago.
Shane's got a lot of fucking pent-up issues tonight.
I know. They're different teams. They're different. This is a case of
It doesn't matter if they're different teams. I'm not saying that the peripheral team shouldn't keep making stuff in the background. I'm saying that PlayStation, as a company, need to make the right choice on what goes out first. And if they turned around and said, "Look, we're working on the rest mode," because the thing is as well, we haven't had an update. We haven't had any update on the rest mode fix. We haven't had any update on the storage on the storage changes. We haven't had any update on any of those changes that they promised over 6 months ago.
We know the storage is coming, Shane.
No. All they've said is it's coming.
Let me just cut this short, guys. Right. Ryan, give us your second story. One that won't divide us.
No, I'm not.
This is the reason I came with
riled
these.
up. But
I loved it.
It's not that I'm riled up or anything. I just think it's poor timing, and what they should have done, in my opinion, is they should have held, whether it be like a state of play or something like that, where they gave us an update on all this other stuff, and then put the controllers in there as well, because that would have been fine.
You want a Nintendo Direct style, which is, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We haven't got a solution to the rest modes. We haven't got a solution to the storage, but thanks for tuning in. But here's some new controllers.
No, what I want to know is
Zelda styles.
What I want to know is, like, have we got a time frame for it? And if we haven't, then don't release those controllers, because right now like say they've got 7.8 million out there that everyone has to turn off every time because they can't use rest mode. You've got 7.8 million people that are having to delete a game every other week to install their new game because they haven't sorted out the storage upgrades. Right now, what is more important? You can go and buy a white controller if you want a second one.
Shiny controllers, buy them.
Or
buy them now.
The ability to actually do what the console was supposed to do at launch.
Also, if you go to game and put in hashtag XXXP, you get 20% off pre-orders on these controllers.
I mean, you definitely don't. Don't be false advertising us now. On a serious note, though, what is your second story?
Let's move on real quick.
Let's wind down with something a bit more mellow.
Everyone will all agree on it.
How long have we been running for this?
Too long.
2 hours.
The reason I asked that is because this has been 2 hours without mentioning Pokemon. So I want to.
Buckle up, we're going into our third hour.
And you've got me on as well, which means a lot of Pokemon. No, it was just small bits of Pokemon. Katy Perry has released her new song on Pokemon. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have, and it is shocking.
It's not great.
Oh God, I thought you were joking. I need to check this out.
No, it's actually...
it's called Electric. It came out
awful.
On Friday, I think it was. It's part of the 25th anniversary of like Pokemon.
No
For some unrelated reason, it's to do with music as well. So Electric, go listen to it. It's on Spotify.
Or don't. Just don't.
Yeah, or watch the YouTube video, which is
use the code XXXP to on iTunes
to feel more despair.
Premium, yeah. But the other thing I put on there as well was like the idea that Walmart and Target in America are suspending sales of Pokemon cards. It's not 100% true, but for those of you that are interested in terms of how Pokemon is doing at the moment, interestingly, over the entirety of COVID,
I know it's just safety reasons. Is this right?
Well, it's because like Pokemon cards have been selling so much. Like there's a huge shortage of Pokemon cards. And there was one series that came out called Shining Fates, and people were going absolutely mad for it. It was selling out within seconds. And the same problem that you had, Mike, with the PlayStation 5, with the scalpers, had with... I want to bring it. I want to keep poking it. Yeah, I want to keep poking it. It's happening with Pokemon cards as well, and people were getting so frustrated by this.
God.
There were places in America where they were queuing up. They were queuing up outside, ignoring COVID rules, ignoring all of this, just to get their packs of Pokemon cards. It's
only in America.
It happens in the UK as well. I mean,
what is wrong with people?
And like the reason I bring it up is because in America they have this thing where it was in McDonald's, when you bought a Happy Meal, you would get a small pack of Pokemon cards. It'd be 3 cards. These garner so much value. They are coming to the UK this month, which means that we could well see in May some complete bedlam going to.
See, this is honestly ridiculous that they've had to pull the sale of Pokemon cards for safety reasons because people aren't following the rules. That is the most ridiculous thing. It's not even like safety reasons. Do you know what? Do you know who else had to pull a product this week? Marks and Spencer's had to pull a selection of fucking Medjool dates this week because they had hepatitis A in them. That's safety reasons, not because some people are being pricks and standing outside the shop when they shouldn't be.
Did you Google things that had to be withdrawn from the sale today?
No, I read the article earlier today. It's actually true. They had to recall a bunch of Medjool dates because they've got fears that they've got hepatitis A. But
I hate it when they've got hepatitis A in them.
It's for me, it's the same. Yeah, it's B or above for me.
On that note, should we fucking wrap up?
Yeah, but before you do the normal wrap up though, any listeners, I want to hear your opinion. Has Sony made the wrong move? Get in the comments and tell me so that I can have a go right.
Is Destiny a good game? Is Pokemon Snap shit? Yes.
I feel like feel like I came onto this podcast today with this story and points only aimed to antagonize Shane. I feel
It
like I
worked.
succeeded.
2 hours later, our longest podcast episode to date.
Right, let's go. Mike, wrap it up.
All right, this has been this week's episode of Triple XP. It's been good to be back. It's been a long hiatus, but we are back. Join us next episode where we might have either Paul Fox or some other cunt. Who knows? Hope you enjoyed the episode. We can join our Discord. You can also comment below, all that good shit. Just talk to us, just let us know what you think about the episode. That is the main thing. And we will catch you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Triple XP.